A pregnant woman has 8 limbs, so technically she's an arachnid. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host Carl Monroe and we cook ourselves in the sun to look tasty to other people. Doom Eternal is on the horizon, and even with a game about slaying monsters and blasting their brains out, we can still get some spooky stories to go with it, but which ones are the most interesting? That's what we're exploring with today's list of the top 10 Doom Creepypastas. As long as you've liked and subscribed, we can roll the intro. At 10, Doom Final Life. Once upon a time, I found a game called Doom 3. Being a fan of the Doom series, I bought the game and started playing. When I started, the scream that Doom guy makes when he dies blasted through my speakers. The game then crashed right after. I loaded the game again and it made it onto the main menu. The game was called Doom Final Life and it showed 10 imps at the bottom of the screen. A few seconds later, they showed me the decaying corpse of Doom guy. His eyes were missing and half of his body was covered in maggots. I quit the game and started playing Team Fortress 2, but the music that played was just the Doom guy screaming at max volume. It hurt my ears, but even muting my computer didn't turn it down. I still am plagued by nightmares of that scream. I had to smash my speakers to get it to stop. When my parents got home, they didn't believe me and stuck me in my room. I can hear knocking at my door. Maybe it's my parents realizing I'm right. I'll have to open the door to find out. I'm guessing he died. Probably. And at 9, Doom 3 Arena. It was in the year 2000. I was a huge fan of the Quake series and had tons of mods for both games. Quake 3 Arena had just come out and I wasn't a massive fan, probably because of the lack of story and an odd experience I had with the game. I was trying to find a server using the master list. It was a cool feature, since you didn't need the IP of another person to join a server, and I found one called Doom 3 Arena. It seemed like it was modded to be like Doom, with classic Doom HUD and weapons. We were playing in the legendary hangar level and all players looked like Doom guy, but Quake 3 didn't support downloading mods from a server, so that was kinda weird. I found it odd, but I was compelled to play on the server whenever I was loading up the game. One day I felt like a different server, so I joined one, but then I got sent to Doom 3 Arena, where all the players circled around me and kept asking why I left. I called them nut jobs and disconnected, then reinstalled the game to make sure I hadn't gotten hacked. I loaded up single player, but instead of the normal tutorial, there was Doom on the hangar level. Curious, I started playing. Doom was holding John Carmack by the neck. Then he shot him twice with a shotgun, blowing him to bits, and said, "Why did you forget about me?" I left the game, but my hard drive crashed. It's been years since that day, and I think I still see Doom, knowing damn well I won't forget him now. And at 8010194. My parents had gotten me an old MS-DOS PC, and I was fixing it up to play some of the newer games. It had some sort of a virus that made it overheat and shut off, so I went to my local pawn shop to see if they had any parts. I made my way to a glass case that had a maxer disc in it. I figured 8 gigs would be enough, so I coughed up the cash and started to leave. But on my way out, I saw another disc that had the word Doom drawn on it. I bought that one too and left completely. I loaded the discs into my computer and the Doom disc was the weird one. All it had on it was some PWADs, one named Weed and another I couldn't pronounce. I installed the game and finished it that night. After doing so, I fell asleep. The next day, my parents were out doing stuff, so I decided to try out the WADs. Weed was only one level and it was filled with pictures of, I'm pretty sure you can guess. The other one had put me in a black room with demons grunting. I reloaded the game, and this time it was different, a forest with a dirt path. I walked along the path examining the trees, and after some time I saw a carving on a stump, but when I went to go to it, the game shut down and left a message saying, "What are you looking for?" I decided to try one last time, and the level was horrific. There was so many bodies, it was so detailed. I threw up in my mouth, pushed it back down, and took the disc out, smashed it, and flushed it. No way I'm letting that happen again. And at 7, Suicide.wad. I'm a Doom modder. There weren't many mods on my roster, so I decided to find a new one. I found one called quotation mark, which basically means nothing. But when I installed it, it had a metric crap ton of files. Turns out it didn't end up being a mod, but instead a WAD file. When I spawned in with just my hands. Regularly, you'd at least get a pistol. Since I didn't want to punch everything, I tried to summon one. I wrote in the command, but instead of spawning a pistol, it spawned a knife. I also noticed that my health was going down slowly. I restarted the game, but this time the room had pure black textures. But my health was still going down. I was wondering what the hell was going on, but then I saw his arm fall onto the floor. I managed to find a teleporter which led me into a room with demons. I cut their throats with the same knife that was used to cut off my arm. But then they turned on themselves and literally started firing fireballs at their faces, and zombie men were impaling themselves. I closed the desktop and see the WAD file, and it's called suicide.wad. I drop it in the recycling bin and clear it, but after doing that, a note had appeared on my desktop called Death Awaits. It said, "Oh, So, you thought throwing a file in your recycle bin would save you, right? Then I saw the mod was back. And at 6, a second coming. This next story is written like a series of letters, each addressed to an Autumn, always from Marshall. It starts off with Marshall explaining his life, how using his technical know-how he makes $700 a week, I wish, and that luckily nobody gets bullied in that week. His girl left him because she was just using him and now he's looking to talk to Autumn. The next letter starts off with Marshall saying you might not want to talk, but now everything is back to normal. Eventually it makes it to when Marshall can actually see Autumn, and after they've played some various games, they load up Doom at some point and they begin to play. Some random player had messaged them on Steam. His name was Jesus and he said there would be no second coming, and then managed to kill their avatars, somehow. At that point Marshall passed out, and as he woke up he could feel himself being shaken. He could faintly make out Autumn who was yelling for him. She asked him what happened, but he couldn't say anything. When he finally managed to speak, he could only say a second coming. And at 5, Doom. Death will come for thee, it will be swift, and if you decide to run, you cannot quit. Demons are coming, this world will be ours, and at your gravestone we will eat all the flowers. What? Alright. I gotta give a poem, like it happens every time, I gotta do it. And at 4, my failure. I was playing Doom one brisk summer's eve until I decided to browse Steam for other games. Based on my played games they recommended me Doom Eternal, and I didn't realize the game had been released, so I purchased it for $50. That was my mistake. When I installed the game it wasn't like any other Doom game. The menu was black with a very simple white selection. I decided to play single player, but all the game did was crash. When it loaded back up, it jump scared me with a decaying corpse of Doom Guy, and then crashed again. No matter what I tried next, it wouldn't load. I contacted Steam about it, but they said that the game didn't exist, and they had no record of it. I tried to find the page, but couldn't. Even Reddit didn't know what I was talking about. They just called me crazy. I'm not crazy, I swear it happened. The game is still installed on my computer, but it just crashes every time. Please, someone, help me. Fix my failure. Don't know how that's creepy, but I guess you wasted $50. So. And at 3, the Doom Diary. In the summer of 1996, a scientist took an interest in video games and invited 5 players to a lab to play some games. He had been reading about some people who, after playing Doom, heard strange noises and saw objects being tossed around their homes. The 5 players played and no strange phenomena occurred. The next day, test player number 1 ended up getting a headache, and a few days later, the players reported hearing strange noises in the night. Most of them were of demonic laughter coming from the computer. The player who had a headache a few days prior refused to speak and instead wrote things on a notepad. At 2:26 a.m. the next day, player number 2 smashed a window in his room, took a piece of glass and stabbed himself with it. Days later, 2 players offed themselves while unplugging their computers and electrocuting themselves. Now there are 2. After those 2 players leave, the lab gets put into lockdown. A demonic creature had entered and began killing staff. The lab had to detonate in order for the story to be covered up, and the creature managed to escape. It is unknown how it got here or where it came from, but my best guess is that damn experiment. And at 2, Demonic High School. I had installed most of my games onto a USB drive so I could play them at school. During lunch I had eaten quickly, so I spent the rest of my time in the library playing Doom. At some point the game shut off, and I looked to see the librarian holding my USB. She tells me we can't play violent games at school and walks away, but before getting too far she trips on a cord and falls, breaking my USB. Later on that day I was making a fool of myself crying when someone came over and asked what was wrong. I explained that my USB broke and they said they could fix it. Within 2 minutes I had a fully functioning USB again, and when I get home I can't wait to try it. I plug it in and load up Doom, but the contrast was higher, making everything look darker. I started a new game, but the difficulties were replaced with names, Eric and Dylan. I started the game and everything was fine until 5 days later when a new option in the menu called Demonic High School appeared. I played the level and I saw several kids, all with names above their heads, looking very shy. At one point I walk into class, then an announcement comes on the intercom saying to get down, then a man charges into the room. I knew what was going on, so I turned off my computer, and when it came back on I Skyped the guy who fixed my USB. Instead of him picking up, it was a kid named Dylan saying thanks for getting him out. Finally, in at number 1, the Herald. While playing some original Doom, my character kept noticing a figure that was present on every level, but could never be interacted with. He'd be in unreachable areas, or I'd blink and he'd be gone. I never understood what he was until one day I managed to stare at him until I was within range. I tried talking to him, but my game got all static and then it went black. However, there was a text box that appeared on the screen and it said, "I am the herald of your doom." Then when the game came back, I was surrounded by demons. They were all ready to attack until the man showed up again. When he did, they all froze and I was left standing there. He said, "Offer me your soul to live." I figured he was talking about my character's soul, but instead, he was talking about mine. I felt it left my body and now I think he's come to collect. There we have it, friends, the top 10 Doom Creepypastas. If you enjoyed, be sure you hit like and subscribe for daily gaming content and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been in Shaw Remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.